A terrible thing happened yesterday, and you didn't hear about it because it wasn't on the news. No one discussed it on any social media platform. But it was a terrible thing, and it should have been front news on the newspapers. What happened yesterday was this. 8,000 children died. 8,000 children died from what's called hidden hunger. And what's sad is that was 8,000 children under the age of 5, and it was absolutely preventable. What's also sad is today 8,000 children will die again, and tomorrow and the next day. And this will continue to happen unless we address this massive problem. Hidden hunger is caused by a micronutrient deficiency. It's not starvation. Bellies are full, but full bellies are not enough. If you don't eat enough of the colorful things on your plate, get those critical vitamins and minerals that we need, you will not grow up strong, you will not develop a strong immune system. And for a child, especially in those first critical 1,000 days of their life, hidden hunger can cause irreversible lifelong damage and even death. But it's not as simple as saying, hey kids, eat your broccoli, eat your veg. There are massive barriers, especially for those living in what we call the global south, places like East Africa, Southeast Asia. Barriers to access, barriers due to behavior, and especially cost. In fact, hidden hunger affects 2 billion people. That's 1 out of every 4 of us on this planet. Now I realize that's some pretty heavy information for a Monday morning, so I promise you the rest of this talk is about hope, about an exciting journey to find a solution and ultimately to scale that solution. Now, if you talk to any social enterprise, you're likely to hear a captivating origin story, a moment or sequence of events that made something click for them to decide to give themselves for the rest of their life to a certain issue or a certain problem. When I turned 30, I wanted to do something different, something impactful, something bigger than myself. And so I took a chance invitation back in 2007 to go volunteer in Cambodia for 4 months. 4 months quickly became 4 years because I fell in love with the work. And the work we were doing was helping about 100 street kids, or beach kids, as they were called there. These kids, as young as 2 and 3 years old, would work all day and all night on the beaches, collecting cans, selling bracelets, begging, even stealing. And unfortunately exposed to dangers like drugs, violence, and pedophilia. So this project, which I ended up running, was all about protection, child protection, creating a safe space, a place where they could drop in, access food, drinking water, first aid, even some education. And that's where I first became aware and faced with hidden hunger, what it looked like, and what was the cause. I remember my first day working there, I was tasked with registering new children that would come into the project. So I sat there, I had my paper, my pen, and the kids would line up. There was about 15 on that first day. And the first child came, and I said, what's your name? He said, Sineng. I wrote down Sineng. I said, how old are you? He said, 14. I couldn't write it down. This kid did not look like he was 14. It looked like he was about 10 years old. Okay, but anyways, I wrote down 14. The next child came up. What's your name? Srey Chin. I wrote down Srey Chin. How old are you? She said 10. Again, she looked like she was 7. This went on child after child, day after day. It was clear that these children were physically stunted, and this is caused by hidden hunger. And as we worked with them, we realized that there was also cognitive development issues, delays. Immune systems were weak. Small cuts would turn into big infections, last weeks. We even lost 2 children to malaria. Realistically, you shouldn't die from malaria if you have a strong, well-developed immune system. In any case, after 4 years, I started to feel like what we were doing was a bit of a Band-Aid. Did we get to them too late? I wanted to get into prevention. I wanted to, again, get to children those first 1,000 days, get to mothers before their mothers. And right around that time, and being open to it, a job opportunity came across my desk to work with this professor from Stanford University. And this professor, his name is David Dotson. He's now my co-founder, mentor, and good friend. He had the brave vision to bring the basic human right of better nutrition down to the bottom of the pyramid, down to the most at-risk communities. And what he recognized was what's worked here successfully to abolish hidden hunger, essentially, in the US, isn't working over there in these at-risk communities. And what's worked here is what's called food fortification, literally making food stronger by adding critical vitamins and minerals. It's proven, it's decades long, it's safe, it's cost effective, and it saves lives. That's why the majority of countries globally have laws on the books mandating that all staple foods that we eat and cook with must have these nutrients added. Whether it's zinc and iron added to flour to make pasta and bread, or vitamin A added to cooking oil. And we all know about iodized salt, right? It's safe, it's law, and it saves lives. But the issue is that there's a big gap in fortification. And this is what I was hired by David to work on and ultimately scale. What about her? If you're a mother living in a village or a town in East Africa, you're cooking this every day and your children are eating this every day. It's a porridge cooked with maize or corn flour, boiled in water. It's cheap, it fills your stomach, but again, full bellies aren't enough. And she's not buying that from some big supermarket chain, because that doesn't have a reach there, that doesn't exist there, nor do these big food companies. She's buying that flour locally. It's produced and sold here. This is a small mill. Every village might have one, every town might have a dozen, every city might have a few hundred. But collectively, these tens of thousands of mills across East Africa feed entire nations. So we thought, if we're going to reach a lot of people, have a lot of impact, this is where we have to add nutrients. And it's a simple process. These mills add grain, and out comes flour. So it's a great vehicle, a great location, again, to add nutrients to reach a lot of people. So we thought, well, we'll just buy a machine and add that machine. Nothing existed on, or off the shelf, rather. And when something doesn't exist, what do? You invent it. And this is what we invented. It's called the Sanku dosifier. Sanku is actually the name of the village where David and I installed our first machine. And dosifier, well, because it doses. It attaches to these small mills, and the miller adds grain, and on one side there's these condensed powdered nutrients, and that comes out with the grain and gets ground in the mill, and out comes fortified flour. Think of your daily vitamin that you take, or should take, crush that up into powder, you have all those iron, folic acid, B12, zinc, all these key vitamins and minerals, then sprinkle it on your food. Similar concept, but same outcome. Now, fast forward to 2014, we wanted to operationalize this project. We have a machine down that works, now we want to reach a lot of people. So we started installing them in Tanzania, in East Africa, a country where 1 in 3 children are stunted, and over half of pregnant women are suffering from an iron deficiency. So a great place to have big impact. And we installed about 50 machines in about 50 mills across the country as a pilot to learn, reaching about 100,000 people. And we knew the machines were working because we installed chips in all our machines, SIM cards, where in real time, that data would be sent to our laptops or to our phones, where we could see how much that mill was producing, if they were accurately adding a safe amount of nutrients, if there are any technical issues. This allowed us to streamline our operations, have bigger scale potential, and reduce our costs. And then, well, we had a machine that worked. We needed a business model to support that machine, to pay for the job, essentially, and incentivize these small millers to buy these nutrients. They couldn't afford them outright, so we looked for inefficiencies in their business, places where we could save some money and put that money towards offsetting the additional cost of these nutrients. In summary, basically sustaining the operations at that mill level. The best outcome of that is the fact that now this miller can sell a premium fortified nutritious flour, food in the marketplace at the same price as an inferior product, which means mothers don't have a financial barrier to buy this new fortified product. Remember, they're living on $1 a day. We don't want a mother to choose between eating healthy and sending her daughter to school. And so the combination of this innovative technology that allows us to remote monitor and reduce our costs, as well as this ability to neutralize the cost of the actual nutrients, has made us extremely cost effective. For the cost of a single cup of coffee, we can ensure and guarantee that a whole family has fortified food for an entire year. Think about that. 1 coffee, 1 family, 1 year. So our ability to scale, cost effectively scale, 10 years ago we were reaching 50 mills, about 100,000 people. I'm so proud that we just finished 2023 reaching some major milestones. Over 1,000 meals across East Africa now that we're working with, bringing the basic human right of better nutrition to over 10 million people every single day. And when we put that number, that 10 million people reached figure, into our nutrition calculator, we see some great impact, potentially reaching over 500,000 children under the age of 5 who are at risk of lifelong stunting, as well as preventing close to 1,000 maternal deaths every single year. And we won't stop there. We have the big goal of reaching 100 million people before the decade is over. And as a social enterprise, we do need your help. And so I'll end on this, and I'll end on this beautiful image right here. Are you willing to give up that single cup of coffee today? A cup that might sustain you for a few hours, and instead support us to sustain an entire family for an entire year, to get more machines, to put them into more mills, and to maintain our mission of guaranteeing that every meal consumed by every mother and child contains life-saving nutrients forever? I think you can. Thank you very much.